and basically took some
Oh, wait
things
a minute,
away
wait a
from
minute, wait a
me.
minute. You
Yeah.
can't run past that, because sometimes people think failures are bad, but you just said that you had both successes and failures that led you in this direction. Can you take a brief minute and fill that out?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely had my plan when I was, younger and going into law school, and thought certain things would work out in the way that I wanted to,
Hmm.
all while realizing and looking back now that maybe God wasn't necessarily at the forefront of that. I think
Hmm.
my personal success was. So I definitely feel like He took me through some things, and maybe I wasn't necessarily granted an answered prayer of what I wanted for
Hmm.
my career, but He humbled me and He let me realize that there was a need for me in His kingdom and to represent His values, and that
Wow.
everything He had given me was for Him, and that the way I could express gratitude for all the opportunities I had and for the talents I have was to, serve Him with all of these things.
Now tell me, because a fight got a brewing there in the Texas, with Texas values, with the State Board of Education. Uh, an agenda had begun to seep its way into the school curriculum for high school, for school students. 6.8 million of them in Texas, seep its way into the curriculum, uh, into the curricula, and you were chosen as the champion for that. Did you volunteer to confront that attempt to seep in the, and I'll just name it, kind of the LGBT agenda and some other kind of historical revisionist that wanted to change the landscape of the educational process? Did you see that coming and say, "Hey, I've been in that place. I've killed the lion and the bear. I want this. I want this giant."
Yes, absolutely. So, in my 4 years at Texas Values, I've always had a strong focus and strong interest in education policy. That's kind of my previous background as well, working
Mhm.
in higher education.
Right.
I was telling you earlier how actually my third week at Texas Values, I was testifying at the State Board of Education.
Right.
So,
Right.
I was familiar with these fights for different standards, whether it
Hmm.
was sex education, where they were trying to introduce LGBTQ issues and abortion in
Hmm.
those standards, which we were successful in keeping that out in 2020. But now we were coming to the social studies standards that were up for review and revision. And for those who aren't familiar, this is a process that happens, I would say, once every decade, where they take the standard subjects for public school students
Hmm.
and they decide that they'll update them. That's really what the goal is, to just update them and make sure students are learning all
Hmm.
that they can. But we know that there are a lot of special interest groups who take that opportunity to introduce topics. Like you're saying, you'll have LGBTQ interest groups who even
Hmm.
saw the social studies standards because they failed to get these issues in the health standards. They saw the social studies
Wow.
as an opportunity to talk about LGBTQ issues. For instance, they wanted eighth graders to study the Pride movement in detail
Mm.
in a sociology course. They wanted to delete standards that reference the family and instead have students identify and define sexual orientation and gender identity.
So I asked you before we came on, who is the ominous they? Who is the they that want to remove uh, true history from areas of study? And I want the listeners, I want you to note that they first began to do it in the health standards using sex education, and that was shut down in 2020. And I want to celebrate Jonathan Signs and Texas Values, you, Mary Elizabeth, and your team that are on the front line to make sure that these kinds of things are not left unchecked and they're not left unconfronted. Folks, listen to me. Although I'm going to say this several times during the broadcast, organizations like Texas Values needs your support. I am a supporter. I am a personal financial supporter of Texas Values. Jonathan didn't ask me to do this. It was not a precondition to Mary Elizabeth coming on tonight. I'm saying this simply because I understand the value of what Texas Values brings to the table as they defend faith, family, and freedom. And with these kinds of experts in their corner that are able to step forward and be the defenders of truth in the area of education, they were sharp enough to see that when this particular agenda couldn't move through the health standards to push LGBT ideology, they moved to social studies to do the same. So you must understand that the enemy that you're facing down is unrelentless. The enemy you're facing down is unrelentless about trying to push their agenda through whatever channel they can get it to you. And we ought to be grateful and supportive and partners with organizations like Texas Values who keeps that tide back. So they couldn't do it through the health standards. They tried it in social sciences, and what happened?
Yeah, so those efforts were defeated, but I did want to backtrack because it wasn't just that was the problem. And
Mm-hmm.
first of all, I wanted to answer the question about who's the ominous they. So the ominous they at this point of the process were the work group members. And the way the process works is that they have these volunteers from all over the state. Sometimes they're teachers by trade who come together and convene as a work group to make suggestions for the changes to the standards that will be presented as a draft to the State Board of Education for them to vote on. So they don't have the final say, but they do have a lot of influence about what can be added, deleted, or even originally drafted. But I did want to go back to some other issues as well, because there was a huge attack
Wait,
on
before you go there,
religion. Yeah.
let me just ask you, and don't lose your thought there, but I
Yeah.
want to ask you if people who want to push their ideology through as a working group member know how to get involved in such working groups. Those who want to keep truth and keep accurate history and accurate subject matter being taught in the schools also need to be a part of those working groups. How can they get there?
Yes, so it's a very open process to be on a work group. You have to definitely have the time to be able to serve on
Hmm.
one. It does require a couple of meetings, sometimes virtually. You will sometimes have to come down to Austin, but you can find
Okay.
this application at the beginning of the process on the TEA website, tea.gov, and you fill out
Okay.
an application. Then your application will most likely go to your elected SBOE member. Your SBOE member will then select you and then recommend you to the TEA staff. And then they'll assign you to a work group throughout the process. So they'll
Okay.
have different iterations of work groups, sometimes a work group A, B, C, D,
Okay.
E, and F
Wow.
until the final vote. And you'll be a part of one of those work groups.
So it is a
But if you want to
very
find out
meticulous
more,
process.
definitely follow us at TX Values
Okay.
because we can help you fill out that application.
All right. All right. So that's what I was waiting on. There's the Central Clearinghouse for Information and Knowledge. It's txvalues.org.
Yes, go to txvalues.org. You can also, call our office, find our information, and you'll be able to get in touch with us so we can help you with that application process.
And that website is in the lower third of the screen as you see www.txvalues.org. And they can help you get the information that you need to become a part of that working group. If the opposition is using the process to massage their agenda into the educational curriculum, we could not be successful if we just sit on our hands and not do something. You have to be able to be a people who will go to that website, texasvalues.org, ask a question, give a call to them and say, I want to be a part of that working group. Would you give me the sort of the blueprint, the roadmap to make sure that I'm involved? Thank you for answering that question about the ominous they. So take us back. You saw this coming in the social. You wanted to address other things. Please do, but also address what happened in the social studies standards and how were you able to stop it and make sure that it can't go forward for another 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely a year-long process, and a part of my role as Texas Values, I make sure from the very beginning that our organization is very involved in the process. So I
Mhm.
attended a stakeholder meeting back in last January. Actually, I
Okay.
believe it was December before this uh, meeting. And so we attended that stakeholder meeting. We got the information of the schedule, and we also attended work group meetings. You can attend and watch the work groups discuss their recommendations for
Hmm.
changes. And then they finally publish the drafts. And that's when I tend to spend hours
Mm.
upon hours reviewing the drafts, sometimes hundreds of pages of recommendations and
Wow.
standards, and you have to be very meticulous with it because you can do a control F search for
Hmm.
things that are problematic or things that
Right.
you expect to be there, but sometimes it's about interpretation. Sometimes it's a concept that's
Hmm.
troublesome. So you want to make sure you meticulously look through these standards. And
Oh
that's
my
when we were
goodness. Oh my
able to
goodness, Mary
find
Elizabeth.
a lot of problems. We found that our national motto, "In God We Trust," was deleted from the U.S. history course.
It was
Um,
deleted from the entire course.
yes, it was deleted from the entire course, which is our national motto. Uh,
And so when I go to grab a good book to read, like Kingdom at War or Heaven on Earth, you grab the Texas State Board of Education standards
yes,
and you
yes,
read that in the evening. I am so grateful you're reading that so I can read this.
yes.
But indeed, I mean, you found that that national motto had been removed from the history curricula.
Yes, it was removed completely. And it wasn't an error. It wasn't that, oh, we were moving it somewhere else. You know, there's a key and a legend to these standards. And
Hmm.
so it was marked out in red as if they wanted it deleted, which is ironic because in the past session, we just passed a law that said, "In God We Trust" must be displayed in public school classrooms. But even besides that, it's just
So
kind of
they broke the
ridiculous.
law, Mary Elizabeth. They broke the law by deleting it. And it would have gone had someone like you not caught it and demanded that it be put back.
Right, that's absolutely true. And what's very interesting is I was told by our president, Jonathan Sines, that this isn't the first time that they've tried to delete "In God We Trust." And we even had a liberal
Oh
board
my
member
goodness.
say that this wasn't the first time "In God We Trust" has been, tried to delete, uh, been deleted. And so there were definitely efforts to fight to get that back in the standards because students shouldn't be afraid to say God,
Right,
especially when
right.
it's in our, it's on your money, it's on your
Yes,
coinage, it's our
yes.
national motto. Uh, we
And when
shouldn't delete that.
the Bible is the most quoted source in our founding documents, and yet we don't want in God we trust in our historical documents. But I'm thankful that you were able to stop it, and now they can't do anything with it for the next 2 years. Why is that? Why must they now wait for 2 years before they try again? And they will try again. But how have you tied their hands for a 2 year period?
So this is where it gets really interesting because we saw so many problems. It wasn't just the LGBTQ issues. It wasn't just deleting "In God We Trust," deleting Moses, deleting John Locke. Um, it was a myriad of issues of things that were added that shouldn't
My
have been
goodness.
added. There was a rewrite or reorganization of elementary school standards where they took away the standalone fourth grade Texas history course and instead wanted to teach world history early on. And a lot of parents were uncomfortable with the focus on world religions and
Yes,
studying tenets of Hinduism and Buddhism at such a young age, like second and
yeah.
third grade. So there was quite a bit. There were quite a few problems with these standards. On top of that, the process seemed very rushed. So we should have had a pretty clear draft in June. When I went to testify in June, they were told me that they weren't ready to really receive my testimony yet. Then we had a special meeting in August, and this is where we saw all of these problems. Within God We Trust being deleted,
Yes.
with religious liberty being deleted, with these LGBTQ references being included. Then we came to September, which should have been a preliminary vote, and we just said Texas Values, along with the groups of parents and grassroots groups, said uh, enough is enough. This is not a good product. The best you can do is delay this vote and not vote for these standards in November, because it was beyond repair. To try to go back, get another work group
Okay.
that's good enough to basically start from scratch to address
Yes.
all of the concerns of all the thousands of parents who spoke out, it was too much. It wasn't possible to really do a good product. So,
Wow.
in talking with
Wow.
the SBOE members, they came around to reason, and a lot of them even apologized and said, I apologize for rushing this process and putting out this product. And so they voted to delay the review and revision of the social studies standards for another 2 years.
Okay. Thank God. Thank God. But the people like Texas Values, like you, Mary Elizabeth, like the other members of your staff there at Texas Values, are those who are on the front line to make sure that our students here in Texas are properly educated and not indoctrinated. What you were actually fighting was an attempt at indoctrination, and thankfully your eyes were sharp enough and your mind sharp enough to see it and then to move to do something about it. And God worked in your favor. We're thankful that God is working with Texas Values and you people that are there to make sure that our students are properly educated. I can't thank you enough for that. I'm appalled, as probably some of our listeners are, just appalled at the audacity of people to take advantage of a process. I'm also appalled at the passivity of others who do not involve themselves in that process and make sure these standards are upheld. But you can now. You know that you can go to texasvalues.org or you can call the office at Texas Values and ask them to lead you through becoming a part of that group. So when you're in the working group and those things are trying to be passed, you can lift your voice and you can lift your concerns and make sure that they stay out. But if they get through like some of them did, then we have a second line of defense, which is Texas Values and these people like Mary Elizabeth who are able to spot it and do something about it. I'm so grateful, Mary Elizabeth, for one, for your being on tonight, but also for your championing the causes of righteousness in the field where you are. Thank you so much for being with us. Why don't you take the last minute or so and just tell the people what you want them to know about their necessity to stand with and stand by Texas Values as you guys stand for us and for our children in the policy arena.
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to your child's education, when it comes to the education of all of our children in society, it's very important that you get involved as a parent and that you get involved in the process, whether it's, choosing standards at the State Board of Education or whether it's local issues with policies at your local school, elementary school, school district. It's very important for you to get involved. And Texas Values is that organization that can help you navigate those issues, that can help you address school boards, address the State Board of Education, educate you on what's going on. So definitely be educated on what's going on, be prayerful about what's happening. And I would just like to say I'm very thankful for my team being supportive through this
Mhm.
entire process. Very thankful for my opportunity to do this work at Texas Values. But if you want to know more, go to txvalues.org. And you can also send an email to info@txvalues if you have a specific question.
All right, Mary Elizabeth, thank you so much. We're going to commercial, and when we come back, I got some stuff to show you and some exciting things to share with you, and we'll be done for the night. Thank you again for being with us. I'll see you soon somewhere in Austin or around the Texas Value office or somewhere on the battlefield. All
All
right,
right. Thank you
blessings
so
to you.
much,
Have a
Pastor
good evening.
Flowers. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Flowers, your host for Transcendent. Transcendent is SABWB's online weekly broadcast aired here on Influence's platform. Join me and other key leaders from various pillars of influence which shape the culture of San Antonio for innovative and strategic dialogue. Each week, we will address core community values and principles that need to be restored and re-implemented into our culture of our great city. This may often necessitate identifying where these values and principles are being compromised and reflecting on the damaging impact that such actions may have if left unaddressed. But ultimately, we want to take the conversation beyond ordinary limits, exceed the normative boundaries, and implement bold, time-tested principles across the pillars of influence in our city, which will result in the positive transformation of the culture. I look forward to visiting with you each week here on Transcendent. Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Flowers, your. All right, so you see that we have work to do, folks. And thankfully, there are many who are engaged in this fight with us, not sitting around wagging their fingers or tisk, tisk, tisk at what bad is happening, but organizations like Texas Value and others are on the front line. I want to go right to a number of videos with you right now because I'm going to talk about the uprising happening around the globe. Our theme for tonight is that the uprising is here. And in the uprising that's here, our American eyes are being withheld by the media. Our eyes are being withheld by the media from seeing what is taking place around the world. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention. One, I happen to have some Iranian Christians that are in our church. And many of you know that it was not too long ago that an Iranian young woman had some hair showing from underneath her hijab. She had it on, but it wasn't properly on, according to the police, the culture police. And they arrested her and ultimately ended up beating the woman to death. Yeah, it is monstrous. It's a monstrous thought that someone, a woman, can be taken off the street by religious, those who are responsible for a religious adherence, and ended up being beaten to death. As a result of it, women are rising up in Iran. They're rising up in that nation. They're rising up in many cases from under the iron fist of Islam that is governing many of those nations. And they're saying enough is enough. They're saying enough is enough. And there is turmoil going on. The members of our church that are from there are gravely concerned about listen to me, they're concerned about the welfare of their loved ones. They could lose their lives. A citizenry that is not armed, there's no Second Amendment in Iran. A citizen that is not armed, a citizenry, does not create a threat to a government that wants to be a bully. The Second Amendment is actually in the Constitution for that very reason, that if our government becomes bully and try to do those kind of things, that the citizenry can rise up in defense of itself. That's why the Second Amendment is in the Constitution. And it's why many don't want the Second Amendment in the Constitution, because they know that it is a major roadblock to total manipulation of the population. And you have people out there who actually want to do that. And you have some who, and they go about it in a very cunning way here in the US. They will take an incident, a horrible incident where people have lost lives at the hand of an insane person, and will parade that horrendous incident across news media and turn the sentiment of the public against accessibility to weapons, and start making laws then that and I believe in responsibility, responsible gun laws. I don't think someone mentally insane, clearly mentally insane, not mentally insane because they don't agree with your ideology, not deemed mentally insane because you don't like them, not deemed mentally insane because they have a different political ideology, but someone who is verifiably insane. They don't need a weapon. They endanger themselves and they endanger others. But if you had such a person who had a weapon and everybody else was also armed, what they're able to do would be limited before somebody else stepped in and stopped them. We've seen that happen in what would have been bloody massacres in certain places here. It was armed people, armed civilians who went after the crazed assailant and took him or her down before they were able to do tremendous damage. All of this, this is just happening around the world. These things are happening around the world, and no media, no mainstream news media in this nation is showing it, because they don't want you to see that the uprising is here. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to understand that the uprising is here. So I'm going to go to a couple of videos with you now, and I want to show you what's happening around the world, because you don't get the chance to see it on local media. Let's call that first video up of people by the tens of thousands parading in the street over something they're calling greenflation. Roll that beautiful beam footage. I think it's the Glenn Beck.
Anti-NATO and anti-EU protests are exploding all across Europe. In Poland, energy bills have increased by 1,000%. More Italians than ever are calling to leave the EU. The UK's Prime Minister Liz Truss's government is about to implode, and the so-called far-right parties in Europe are absolutely surging. What you're about to see may indeed be the moment when the European continent changes for generations to come. Let's start in Italy, where over the weekend we saw massive protests erupting in virtually all major Italian cities. This one in Rome carried the banner, "NATO and EU, leave us alone." And that's a sentiment that's growing throughout the nation. Skyrocketing costs of living, together with record unemployment and recession, has more Italians than ever questioning the EU's monetary policies and NATO's military policies. And in the midst of this anger, Europe's right-wing parties are absolutely surging. As I'm sure you all know, Giorgia Meloni led Brothers of Italy to a massive victory in their national elections just a few weeks back. And as Meloni will not be sworn in as prime minister for another few weeks, the populist anger and resentment that helped elect her and her right-wing coalition continues to fester and grow throughout the nation, promising that this latest election was but the first of many more populist revolts in Italy to come. But in many respects, what's happened in Italy is tame compared to what's happening in France. Hundreds of thousands of demonstrators have come out across the nation in protest of the EU's greenflation policies, as well as NATO's provocation of war against Russia. Police were called in to break up protests where people chanted slogans such as "resist" and "Frexit," which is a call for France to leave the EU, as Britain did with Brexit, a call that's becoming more and more popular by the day. In addition to the general protest, French trade unions are staging a massive...
Now that goes on and on. You can go to our website, get more of that. But these things are happening across the globe, and you and I are not hearing about it. Why? Because they're protesting the same things that you're protesting. Out of control gas prices, uh, the Green New Deal, that kind of ideology that's crushing economies, that sending them into a downward spiral. That's happening around the world, but the U.S. Media, they don't want you to see that. They don't want you to see that the uprising is here. It's here now, and we're in the midst of, right here in the state of Texas. We're in the midst of our early voting right now. If you haven't heard, early voting numbers in other states, this is a midterm. This is a midterm election, and statistically, those voter turnouts are not supposed to be as heavy as they are. But people are fed up. They know something is wrong. They know somehow too much has been shoved in their faces, and they are now revolting against that. They're rising up against it. Hence the name of our broadcast for tonight. The uprising is here. I want you to be aware, SABWB family. I want you to be aware of what's happening, and know that SABWB is on the front line here in our city of making sure that we maintain freedom, that we maintain a posterity that we are proud to pass on to our children and our grandchildren, and we need to make sure that that we're moving as one in that direction. I want to kind of dovetail this conversation into the fact that the school to prison pipeline is still in force, but desperately needs to be broken. There are 4 zip codes here in the city: 207, 78207, 78237, 78228, and 78210. Those 4 zip codes, 78228, 78207, 78210, and 78237. Those 4 zip codes supply hundreds of people out of the neighborhoods that those zip codes cover, hundreds of people into the prison system. And in those neighborhoods, there are also broken schools that are like in the last section, Mary Elizabeth talked about schools that are no longer educating, but indoctrinating. You cannot sit by and watch this happen. You can't. You have to move to do something. So we did. We went to a community coffee, put we being SABWB and some men at Faith Outreach Center. We were actually going to go to an organization for men called Man Up that we try to go to every year. But this came up, and we diverted our attention over to this, and we marched into this meeting with the men that you see here. That's Representative Diego Bernal standing with the mic in his hand. And we were there to insist that the school to prison pipeline be broken by our legislators supporting school choice. Afterwards, we went right here and had barbecue, sat down all of our men together and had barbecue. I'm going to come back to that one particular slide. But I want you to know you cannot sit on your hands and do nothing. You must move forward. And there are ways you can move forward. In our last section, you can call Texas Values and say, I want to be a part of that process that makes me able to make sure our curriculum is not contaminated and make sure that evil things are kept out of it and that good things are included in it. You can take action to make sure that happens. We do the community coffee. We sat down with Diego Bernal. We insisted that as a legislator, he agrees with what the high percentages of his those he represents want. 88% of Blacks want school choice. They want the money to follow the child to wherever they choose that child to be educated. And if it's not the failing school in their community, they want the money to follow that child to wherever they want their children to be educated. Now, there's a fight, of course. The Texas Education Association, the National Education Association, they don't want to have these students removed out of their clutches. They want to keep them in the classroom and keep revising their curriculum and keep brainwashing and keep indoctrinating until they have them under their control. But the uprising is here, people. The uprising is here, and you must become a part of it. You can become a part of it by becoming our partner. I'm going to tell you how to do that in just a minute, and I need your partnership because we got some major things right on the cusp. I can't wait to tell you, but I need to get there real quick and tell you about it. So make sure that you are involved, that you are people who are involved, and that you're vigilant in the fight. There are tens of thousands of them in Europe that are involved because they're feeling the pinch. They're feeling the cold winter is coming in Europe, and their gas and fuel and all that stuff that they would normally warm their homes with is not as available, and their ability to go to the store and get something to eat is not really what it is. And when primal needs start pressing in on people, it moves them to do something. And these folks are walking by the tens of thousands in the street, and your news is not telling you about it because they are protesting the same thing that is that's an aggravation to you. So my encouragement to you is less protest. I'm not talking about walking by tens of thousands in the street. I'm talking about taking unless it comes to that. In fact, I'll tell you that at some point during the next legislative session, beginning January of 2023, it will come to that. SABWB will alert you to the call and the time and the place when we will need to gather, perhaps at the steps, I know in some occasions, at the steps of the Capitol, and demand that our legislators pass school choice. Give parents to empower parents. Governor Abbott has used that term, empowerment of parents, and he also believes that money should follow the child to wherever the parents deem necessary that the child to be educated, to include Christian schools, private schools, charter schools, public schools. You as a parent, put them wherever you want to put them. And if you want to keep them in the public system and you're happy with that, go ahead and stay. Over 700,000 students right now are enjoying some form of school choice, and they have never closed the school down because people walked out en masse. This is the lies they tell you. But on our website at sabwb.org, you will see School to Prison Pipeline banner. Tap that banner, and under that banner is all kinds of information debunking the myths and the fears that are being generated around school choice. You will see that they're lies, and you can insist, I want my child to stay where my child is. But if another parent wants to take their child to another school district or another public school or a private school, or want to take them to a Christian school, they have a right to do that. They have a right to do it. So let them take them. And all of those myth busters are on our website, sabwb.org. Click on the School to Prison Pipeline, and you will see all the information there that you need. This thing is gaining momentum as we move forward. So I want to talk to you about a couple of other things. When I come back from this commercial, I'm going to talk to you about some updates. And then at the end of those updates, we're going to close out with you having an opportunity to partner with me, and me having an opportunity to partner with you to see this kind of stuff go forth in the city of San Antonio and help shape and change our culture. I'll be right back with you after this commercial. For Transcendent. Transcendent is SABWB's online weekly broadcast aired here on Influence's platform. Join me and other key leaders from various pillars of influence which shape the culture of San Antonio for innovative and strategic dialogue. Each week, we will address core community values and principles that need to be restored and re-implemented into our culture of our great city. This may often necessitate identifying where these values and principles are being compromised and reflecting on the damaging impact that such actions may have if left unaddressed. But ultimately, we want to take the conversation beyond ordinary limits, exceed the normative boundaries, and implement bold, time-tested principles across the pillars of influence in our city, which will result in the positive transformation of the culture. I look forward to visiting with you each week here on Transcendent. Hello, everyone. So glad to be with you here on Transcendent, and I want to tell you in our closing moments tonight about some exciting news that I posted about on the website, on my Facebook page, my personal page earlier today. Here is the good news. Today, I got a phone call from Jim Willoughby. He is the coordinating person with Mario Murillo Ministries. It has happened. He's coming to San Antonio. And the pastors and leaders, regional pastors and leaders ministry luncheon is going to be on December the 7th. December the 7th. And we will be contacting you personally about it. It's so new. I got the call today. It's so new that I haven't even gotten, the office hadn't even settled on a place where we're going to have that pastors and leaders luncheon. But it will be announced before the end of the week. We're going to put some information out from this office to let you know where that luncheon will be. December the 7th. Every one of you who are interested, you know that God is doing something under tents. So Mario Murillo is coming at the invitation of SABWB, and all of you who want to see this happen in our city, he's coming for a tent revival, y'all. A tent revival. There's something of the grace of God that's in the tent again. I say again, and some of you are too young to know what again means. Well, there was a period of time in history when God called men and women to traverse the country with the gospel of Jesus Christ and the demonstration of his love and power, and it shook the nation. It emptied ballrooms and bordellos and brought them into the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. It changed corporate environments. These tent ministers, Reverend Kenneth E. Hagin, T.L. Osborne, R.W. Shambach, Jack Coe, Oral Roberts, Catherine Kuhlman, Amy Semple McPherson, and the list goes on of people who set up tents. Billy Graham ministered in tents that stretched large enough to take in 3,500, 5,000, 10,000 seats. The one that Mario is bringing to our city in 2023 will be a 3,500 seat tent. In early plannings, listen, today I got this news, today, and I'm sharing it with you tonight. One of God's current tent revivalists is coming to the city of San Antonio, and the regional luncheon will be on December the 7th. It's going to take us well into 2023 to make sure that we have everything in place. All the needed security, we have the site, we have the permits, we have all of those things. SABWB is taking the lead along with that organization and with the help of all of you who want to see tent revival in the city of San Antonio. I am so excited about it. December the 7th, we'll be having a regional pastors and leaders luncheon at a location to be announced this week. So make sure that when you get something from me, from Bishop Flowers, on the Mario Murillo tent revival, make sure you look at it, make sure that you respond. And when you come to the luncheon, we'll lay out the blueprint of how we're going to affect the city of San Antonio in 2023 with tent revival. I requested an October window, an October 2023 window. In talking with Jim Willoughby today, it's that window that we're looking at, the October timeframe of 2023. This Pastors and Leaders Luncheon is just to make sure that we have enough base of participation, enough unity, and enough prayer-based and all of those things, moving forward to see this thing explode across the city of San Antonio and revival come and lives are transformed. Mario Murillo is coming to San Antonio in a tent revival. And the first of those planning meetings will be December the 7th at a location to be announced this week. So make sure that you look at your emails and your text to make sure that you stay abreast of that and that you're joining us in that luncheon. And I'm excited. I'm thoroughly stoked and excited about it. So that's the update on the Mario Murillo piece. The next piece of exciting news is this. We're moving forward with the Freedom Walk. Now, you saw something on the screen earlier. This what you saw. Save the date. It's January the 14th. We're going to make a modification to that because it's not the MLK Freedom Walk. It is simply the Freedom Walk. Now, let me tell you why. Let me look you in the face and tell you why. The city of San Antonio puts on the largest march in the country every January on MLK Day. Usually, this upcoming 2023, it will be on the 16th of January. The Freedom Walk is not in competition with that. The Freedom Walk will begin at Lincoln Park, and it will go from Lincoln Park down Commerce and up to MLK Park. It will have 4 stations, 4 milestones, we call them, that are incredibly impactful. It will be something that totally focuses on the message and life and goal of the ministry of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The Freedom Walk is about that. Now, the one that the city does is not always about that. It's on his day, it has his name, has his face on it, but it's not always about that. Sometimes there's political agendas laced all through it, and those who differ with it feel unwelcomed and even isolated from the process. This Freedom Walk is really about his message. It's about the content of his message. It's about historical accuracy concerning the milestones that you will go through, that you will walk through, will present specific milestones in history in glorious detail, in glorious and graphic detail, to give you an accounting of what it was like. And you're going to see, oh my goodness, I don't want to give away the thunder. I don't want to give away the story, but you're going to see what it's like to be right in the middle of the civil rights movement right that day, January the 14th. You'll see what it feels like. And then you will be enjoined to join with the quest, along with thousands of others, to see the manifestation of Dr. King's dream, to manifest what it looks like to be free sociologically, to be free to participate in the American dream, to be free financially. In fact, the Freedom Walk is one of the opening acts for Dream Week 2023. The Freedom Walk is one of the opening acts for Dream Week 2023. Again, we are not in competition with the MLK March. We are not in competition because we're doing something totally different than they do. They do the same thing basically every year. They lace it with a whole bunch of political people and they come and give their political speeches. And at the end, there's more of the same. And if that's what you want, then by all means, stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with it. Keep doing it. We're not in competition with that, nor are we turning the Freedom Walk to a Republican version of what they might be doing on the Democratic side. This is not a political march at all. You won't hear one person give you a political speech in the Freedom Walk. Not one. You won't see them platformed. You won't see them up in front of people. You won't see any of that. What you will see, that you might see them marching next to you if they choose to do that. But this is not an alternate march, a Republican flair to that march that is so democratically overrun. No, it's not that at all. This is about the message and the life of Dr. King. And we're focusing on that. No political speeches. No, don't call talking about, there'll be thousands of people there. Can I make a political speech? Your answer already is no, you can't. Can you walk in the crowd beside them? Absolutely, because everybody's free to walk. We have parking. You can park at St. Philip's College, and you will be bused from St. Philip's College down to Lincoln Park for the start. I'm confirming this with some of the Coliseum, Freeman Coliseum officials, but you can park there too. It's a less than a 2 or 3 minute drive away. You should be able to. We'll make sure that that's confirmed, and you'll be bused from there too to come right over to Lincoln Park, and we'll start the process at Lincoln Park. In fact, we're limiting it to 5,000 participants. We're limiting this Freedom Walk in 2023 to 5,000 participants. When you register, and it will be registration, it's free, of course, it's free. All of it is free. When you register, your registration will include where you will be parking, either at St. Philip's College or at the Jordan Harry Freeman Coliseum. And you'll be bused to the station number 1, milestone number 1, Lincoln Park. And you'll go through 4 milestones. It's going to change your life, man. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life. It's going to change your life. We're working with a production company that will make sure that we get top drawer kind of presentation on these things. By the way, let me just close with this. If you want to act, I need you. Because we're going to begin rehearsals. There are some dramatic productions that will be a part of these milestones. If you are an actor or an actress and you want to be a part of that team, then call 210. I'm going to ask the producer to put this number on the screen, 210-866-4409. 210-866-4409. I need some people to act. I've already written in places for a couple of people that I know are perfect for the places that I want them to be in. So I want you to become involved in that. 210-866-4409. That's the number I want you to call, 210-866-4409. And tell them I want to be an actor in the January 14th Freedom Walk. And we will begin to communicate with you immediately and start having our practices so that as this is executed on the 14th of January, it will literally change the mind and hearts of people for a very long time. The number is on the screen, 210-866-4409. Just tell them I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor in the Freedom Walk on January the 14th, 2023. And so thank you so much for it. Those are the mighty updates. The big news that I have for you is that Mario is coming to San Antonio in Tent Revival. The kickoff and the regional luncheon for that, to make sure that we have the necessary base of support that we need. And his team will be here on December the 7th, giving us a blueprint of how we can execute this in impactful ways that they have done in city after city before. So mark your calendar, save the date, December the 7th, and be looking for emails from this office, from me personally, about that date, December 7th, 2022, as we make ready for Tent Revival in San Antonio in 2023. God bless you. I'm so happy to be with you tonight. Make sure that you become our partner with us. You can see we don't have a large budget, a large endowment, I should say.